Good day,
There we go.
listeners.
Good
Natasha,
afternoon, Carl. And how is Seville treating you?
I absolutely love everything about Spain. I cannot begin to tell you how much I love Seville. It's the third largest city and the dearest to my heart.
Well, you'd love it here. It's around 0 degrees, usually drizzly, not snow, of course, and exactly your type of temperatures.
Yeah, that would be a Berlin winter. I kid you not when I tell you that I'm using my electric socks around the apartment where I'm staying right now at night because the floors are marble and they're very cold. They're meant to be cool in the summer and they're cool in the winter.
Yes, of course, they would be.
I'm using electric socks, the ones you got me for Christmas last year, in an apartment in 70-degree weather in Seville because that's just me. I get cold.
Yeah, you'd love it here. Yeah.
Yeah, I would hate it. All right, this is Expat Radio. This is Natasha Cohn and myself, Carl Wilder. And among the things we're going to be discussing today are the expat experiences with bureaucracy and traveling with pets. We will be doing this show regularly on Mondays, and we're going to talk about everything expat and immigrant because the use of the terms is kind of nebulous. The original meaning is expat is someone who's temporarily away from their home company, and immigrant is someone who wants to stay in the country that they have chosen. I consider myself an immigrant, but most people use the terms, if you have white skin, you're an expat. If you have brown skin, you're an immigrant. And that's the truth.
I have been an immigrant in one, two, three, 4, 5 countries. And I used the term immigrant.
Well, you're only an immigrant if you're going for citizenship and you want to stay.
Well, I did want to stay. I was staying in Canada and the United States and
Right.
England. I got a citizenship, and Switzerland and Germany, where I don't need a citizenship because I'm French. But I do consider myself an immigrant. And my father, of course, who you know was Croatian, he went to France, so he was an immigrant, and all the places he traveled to, like Canada, United States, etc., he was also an immigrant. So I come from a long line of immigrants.
Well, as you know, I moved around quite a bit. I spent 2 years in Italy. I lived in Paris. I'm currently living in Seville just for 6 months. I've lived in the US and the Dominican Republic. So I've had the experience of starting over multiple times. And I'm just going to launch in on the one thing that is most important to me right now as an immigrant in Seville, finding a barber.
Finding a barber. Oh,
Right. Barbers in Germany, as you know, tend to do one haircut. They shave the sides of your head, they shave the back of your head, and they give you this little thatch on top. I hate that haircut.
yes.
So I have been walking around observing barbers in Seville to see what kind of haircuts they give to try to find somebody who won't scalp me.
Very funny. Barber in Seville.
Mhm.
Sounds familiar. I think somebody used that title for something. Can't remember who now.
Well, near where I'm staying is a place called the Barber of Seville. So he took advantage of that.
I'm
And
sure.
there are lines to get a haircut there. But what I've noticed is because there are lines and because so many tourists want their haircut there, they spend about 10 minutes a person, beep, 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 and they're out. And the cuts are not what I'm looking for.
No, indeed not. And as you know, I go to the hairdressers once a year, whether or not I need it. And mine is conveniently located at the foot of my building. So yes, I have recently had a haircut. You may notice that a couple of inches have been removed from my hair. Other than that, it hasn't changed at all, of course.
You stay completely natural. My gray is not so visible. Well, you can see some of it. It kind of reads as highlights on me because I'm a filthy blonde.
Yes, I believe there was a book written about that somewhere.
I'll talk about that later. Anyway, traveling with pets. Traveling with pets is a concern for a lot of people. And right now, I'm seeing on the Traveling with Pets page on Facebook, a lot of people from the US who want to leave political reasons. We completely can understand that. And they are looking to go to European countries. And they're asking about traveling with their pet, traveling with their pet, traveling with their pet, because you and I both know these guys, we don't give them up. They eat before we eat. It's that kind of loyalty we have to our animals. So tell me about traveling with your cat that goes absolutely everywhere with you.
Yes, well, it's thank you very much. Cozy says hello. But the interesting that I found, of course, is usually hotels will accept pets or not. But when they say accept pets, what they mean is accept dogs. Okay, you have to call them up and say, you take pets. Mine is a cat. Oh, sorry, we don't take cats. Well, you said you take pets. Okay, so if I showed up with my iguana, you would take pets because he's my pet. But no, what they mean is dogs. So you have to specifically call and inquire every time you want to be with your cat. There are some other hotels that not only welcome cats, but when you get there, there's a cat bed, a cat bowl, a cat tree, cat treats, and everything else. Now, I do understand Cozy, of course, is exceptionally well trained and will not tear up the place, scratch everything. And other things, we take him with his little scratching post everywhere if he wanted. But whenever it says we take pets, double check that it's cats as well.
Not only that, but I've noticed that some hotels have it on their website, but they don't really do it. And if you use the filter on booking.com for accept pets, they often don't. They say, no, we don't do that. But you chose it when you did your booking.com profile. Well, but we don't do it. That must have been a mistake. So it is a big challenge. I am lucky because Milu was trained as a service dog, and I was able to get his service dog papers transferred over to me as his new handler, even though I'm not diabetic. And he flew on the plane. Iberia was wonderful about it, and he's allowed everywhere in Spain, restaurants, grocery stores. They love dogs to begin with, and this is the only time he's not on my lap, as you notice. And he's welcome everywhere, which is really, really nice and easy for me.
Well, I find actually that in general, in France, like you say, Spain, Croatia, Germany, Italy, Holland, Belgium. I haven't tried the northern countries, but in all of these countries, yes, the pet, the cat or the dog, are welcome in restaurants and everything else. On some rare cases, they would also be allowed in all the shops, including food shops. In the UK, it is very rare to be able to bring your pet into anything. You can bring him into the bar area of a pub, but not the restaurant area. And that works for cats or dogs. Only
Will they serve you food in the bar area?
you can order food in the bar area just like you would in a restaurant, but
So it's virtually no difference, except for their rules.
I have no idea. It is one of the wonderful mysteries of the UK.
There are many of those. There are many
There
of
are
those.
many of those.
There are many things I love about the UK, especially London, but there are also many things about every country I don't love. And I have to say, this leads us to many subjects, but bureaucracy is an issue everywhere you go.
Oh, absolutely. And in some countries, bureaucracy is more difficult than others. We have found, for instance, that Germans are particularly fond of red tape and forms, 12-page forms, etc., so on and so forth. In France, there are forms, but it's mostly time and patience you will need. And then another form will show up, and then more time and patience. I understand you had a different experience in Seville.
It took me 5 minutes. I
Yes.
just needed the one piece of paper that allows me to stay here for 6 months and build a business. And it took 5 minutes. I went in, I had the application filled out, which was one page, very simple. I left, I was done.
And the fee was interesting as well, I understand.
What fee?
Exactly.
Yeah, it was the simplest process ever. And I have to say, for those of you who are looking for retirement options or remote worker options, Spain has visas for both, an excellent healthcare system, which I learned immediately, pretty much upon my arrival. I'm always having lung and throat issues. I have asthma, and I picked up strep throat, probably on the airplane. Got to Seville, took my German medical card to the local medical center, was registered in moments, literally 5 minutes, and saw the doctor 5 minutes later. The most painful part about the healthcare system here was instead of giving me oral antibiotics, they gave me a shot. But it worked literally overnight. The next morning, my throat was great. I'm running around with Milu at the park. They love dogs here, so he can go to all the parks and run around off leash and just be very, very doggy, which he's enjoying more and more and more.
That indeed is another point to make re-pets. In Paris, in the parks, pets are not allowed.
I know.
So, Jardin du Luxembourg and everything, they're of course allowed in the Bois de Boulogne or the Bois de Vincennes, but all the parks in Paris, they do not allow pets on or off the lead.
Milu is allowed at this little Napoleon monument, which is this very small place with a patch of grass that he can run in circles. But when I'm in Paris, his exercise options are very limited, which I don't understand because dogs are in every cafe. They're very welcoming in the cafes. They bring them water. Sometimes they bring them a little plate of raw meat or something. But parks.
Well, it may have something to do with the fact that picking up after yourself or after the pet, actually, because although things are considerably better, I remember growing up in France, and this is something you learn to do from a small age, is when you walk, you look at the pavement and you kind of look 100 meters ahead in a quick sweep, and then continue your conversation, wait 30 seconds, do a quick sweep with your eyes, and so on and so forth, because there was a time when the pavements in Paris, or even France for that matter, were obstacle courses. There are, of course, places that are still that.
I was a very little boy, my first trip to Paris, and two of the most memorable things were dodging dog poop everywhere and the pissoirs on the street, which are now gone.
Yeah.
Men just whipping it out on the sidewalk and peeing in this big green thing. I was a little boy and I thought that was very convenient, but also very smelly.
Yes, indeed. But so therefore, I understand that that is why pets are not allowed in parks or, for that matter, on beaches.
Well, there is a beach. Where did Jasmine take me? There's a beach in France that has
there's several beaches. Yeah,
I know. It has a special dog section.
Yes.
And I took Milu and her little baby Gemma, and Milu went running and running and running and swimming and running and swimming and running and swimming and running, and Gemma sat on my feet because she's that kind of dog. But they had a doggy section, and I love that because he loves to run on the beach. He loves to run anywhere,
Yes, my sister has a pointer, and she lives in Le Touquet in northern France, and they have miles of beaches.
Oh.
And so they go to the beach, and Susie is let off the lead, and next thing you know, it's a dark point on the horizon, and you're kind of praying she comes back. But yes, she runs for miles on the beach. But it's the beaches that are away from towns, that are not used, by loads of tourists,
Hmm.
because picking up after yourself is, or after your pet, is not something that is ingrained yet in the French spirit.
Yeah, no, I get that. It should be, but
Yes, of course.
um,
Well,
it
actually, saying that, let's not blame only the French. I can assure you that I have had and seen incidents in everywhere else in Europe,
okay.
even Germany.
Really? Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, um, outside, we live in Charlottenburg, as you know, and
Hmm.
on my street is one of those places where I look, where I walk. Our street are incredibly elegant, wealthy street. There are people who walk around and don't pick up. Yeah,
I am playing with my lighting, as you can
I
see,
can
because
see that.
it's kind of, I don't know, it's a very gloomy day. We're having rain now, and well, what can I do?
Yeah.
We get gloom here. So I tried to make it better. I'm not sure that it is, but my face is still in the shadows, whereas you look beautifully lit and great today.
I am actually not in my apartment. I'm
Ah,
in somebody else's apartment who is
another people.
gone because it was no, her son's, because
Okay.
it was difficult to ask my husband to not work for 2 hours. And he said, I'll be quiet. And I said, yes, that's not an issue. But what happens if clients call you? And yes, that would have been an issue. So uh, I came up here
Now
and
we're
battled for half an hour with, because that is precisely the moment my computer decided to do a major update 10 minutes from showtime.
yeah, that's another reason I never want to have another Bill Gates product in my life.
Well, this is an HP, and it's very nice, but
It runs
yes,
on Windows though. You coming? Sorry, Milu. It runs on Windows, right?
yes.
Windows
And but the
does.
time will come soon where this will be replaced by a MacBook.
Good. I think you'll be much, much happier.
Oh, I've had MacBooks in the past, so yes, I can tell you I will be much happier.
Oh, okay.
Now,
I think I've
something
just
else.
joined. See, this
Hello,
is real
Milou.
life, people, real life. Milo, for those of you listening and not seeing, just jumped on my lap because he belongs to me or I belong to him, one of the two, and he has to check in every once in a while.
I think it's both. I think
Yeah.
it's both. I think you're his support human, but
Yes. Okay. Yes.
so I wanted to talk about something else,
Tell me.
because last week was an important week in terms of traditions.
What?
Last week was Thanksgiving.
Oh, for Americans, yeah, yeah.
Well, for Americans and people who have that tradition. So uh, my sister in Paris had Thanksgiving, or maybe in Le Touquet, but I think it was in Paris. My sister, who is presently in the US, had Thanksgiving, and I had Thanksgiving here in Germany. And I sent Adam to get a turkey because we had divided chores. So we only had to get a turkey. Sauces and vegetables were getting done by somebody else, by other people, because there were 7 of us for dinner. And you know how picky he is about his food. So, of course, he went to Lidl, as usual. Okay. And he came back with everything. Came back with 2 chickens, came back with all the vegetables, all the sauces, and all the desserts. He said he was there. How could he not buy everything? It all looked delicious and fresh. I said, yeah, of course, it's little. What do you expect? So, although Penelope cooked all the vegetables, we ended up forking all, all the expenses for Thanksgiving, but thank God it was little, so it wasn't that much, but, as much as it could have been. But so, yes, we had Thanksgiving where everybody sat around. You look frozen. Oh, no,
You're
you're
right.
there.
I'm here.
And where everybody sat around and gave thanks for something. I don't mean thanks to God, just thanks in general.
Right. The one thing I would be thankful for is if all the wars in the world were to end today. I'm so tired of war.
Well, on that subject, in Berlin, they are starting, first of all, they are upgrading the I don't think they call them bunkers, but the what are those things that you go in an emergency during the war?
Bomb shelters.
Yeah, they're shelters, exactly. They're updating the shelters and assigning shelters to everyone.
Oh boy. The last thing Berlin needs is another war. It has been devastated twice by war. And, you
At
know,
least twice.
but yeah, I mean, but really devastated twice. World War One, there was a lot of rebuilding in 1920. Then World War Two came along and it was devastated again. Um, I think Berlin should just take a pass on any future wars anywhere in the world for the rest of time.
Unfortunately, geographically speaking, as you know, there is just one not that small and not that weak, but not that strong and not that big either country between
China,
us and
Russia,
exactly. As you know,
right?
uh, Ukraine is 1 day drive from here.
I know. I've been there a couple times. I uh, I don't like it. I don't like it. And I mean, if it really gets started and something does really go on in Berlin, I will find a way to get somewhere safer with, my little pup here, because I'm not interested in being bombed. The one thing that may happen is the way the U.S. is playing this is that they may just bypass Europe and just go straight for the U.S. Not good, but good for us. I think the U.S. needs to stop provoking war around the world. It's enough. I don't think Donald Trump will listen to this, but he's the next one in line. He says he's going to end the wars. I don't think he will, but he says it.
Well, 2 things. First, as you know, I don't think we should start talking politics.
Well, politics affects expats, so I think it's okay. It affects you, it affects me, and it affects everyone listening.
Absolutely. I believe we can be, we can look at it with a careful eye and prepare a go bag if necessary. But, I think we should still live our lives in a way that says F you.
Yeah, I have a go bag already to go in my storage room. And that comes from my days when I used to work for another food tour company. And I was traveling around the world to fix problems or to set up a new tour or to do this or to do that. So I kept a permanently packed bag ready to go in my storage room that I could grab on a moment's notice. And I'll do the same thing with, some food for the pup in his bag. And I would take off at a moment's notice if I had to, because I'm not interested in living under air raids and sirens, and that's not a good life.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we have, for the time being, decided not to buy a flat in Berlin. And actually, one of the main reasons has nothing to do with politics, but because we live in this heavenly place here where I'll give you an example. Last night, Penelope had her son's cat with her to spend the night, and she knows how to open the door with the handle, and she was doing it over and over and over and over again. And first, I couldn't figure out what that noise was, so I went outside in the hallway and figured it out. And she kept going, and all of a sudden, I thought maybe something happened to Penelope. And Miho's trying to tell us. So I went into Penelope's flat to have a look. She was okay, but the point is, we all look out for each other, you know?
That's true.
There isn't, you know, if the number of times Penelope was not well, we were in it, feeding her, taking care of her, giving her medication, and so on and so forth. And the same thing happened when I had COVID. So this is one of the main reasons why we won't buy a place. Oh, I've lost your sound. Yes, I've lost your sound. So Carl is not talking and not moving very much, but looking for what the mystery is of his sound that's gone. Yes, still gone. I trust my sound. There we go. I heard something.
I'm back.
You are back, young man.
This is the joy of live and uncensored radio and recordings, people. Things will happen, and you get to join us on that journey. I was going to bring up one issue. It's not political, but it does impact U.S. citizens more than anyone, and that is the issue of double taxation. If you make more than 100,000 US dollars in any country in the world, you pay 50% to the US government. That is the double taxation. As it is, if you make less money, you are expected to contribute to Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid. Even though you're not getting Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, I guess, is understandable, assuming it is there when any of us retire, which is an assumption I don't make. But I'm not a fan of the double taxation. They're the only country in the world that has it. So if you're a U.S. citizen and you want to get out, I'm going to make a little bit of a suggestion. If you're a worker and you want to be a remote worker, get a remote worker visa. Do not apply from the U.S. I'm hearing this from everybody. Anyone and everyone that applies from the U.S. to go to any country on earth right now will be automatically turned down. If you go to the country, use your passport, establish yourself, and get whatever registrations you need, then apply from the country you are in. Your chances of being accepted are 100% better. They're just going to turn you down if you apply from the US right now because they're overwhelmed with applicants, and most of them are close to retirement age. So if you want a retirement visa, you go to Spain, go to the south of Italy, go to the south of France. There'll be more bureaucracy, but you can get it. There are many places that will welcome you on a retirement visa. You can buy into the healthcare system for a low fee, but do not ever, under any circumstances, apply from your home country any longer. The rules are changing rapidly because people are overwhelmed with applications and they're just renouncing them right and left.
Question. To go anywhere, I mean, like on a holiday, isn't it 90 days or is it 60 days?
It depends on the country. There are countries where it's 90 days under the Schengen visa. There are countries where it's 6 months.
So you have at least 3 months to make the application once you land as a tourist.
Right. Once you land as a tourist in any Schengen country, you have 90 days.
Okay, well, that's important to know.
So if you wanted to go to, say, Thailand, You could apply for the extended tourist visa, which are easily given, and that'll give you 6 months. And you better start learning some Thai because they speak a lot of English there. But from what I've heard, when it comes to the official um, documents, you have to be able to fill them out in Thai. If you don't understand Thai and you use a language translation app for the form, that's acceptable, but you must be able to put your answers in their language. And it's got different characters. Everything about it's different. I learned a few words when I was there.
I don't speak Thai at all.
I, I think I learned to say thank you and hello.
Oh.
When I say a few words, I mean a few words. Fortunately, I came to Spain with the ability to say thank you and hello. So, and paddle, because that's the most important, sitting here right on my lap. Meine paddle.
Yes.
I do this a lot. I
Gato.
combine languages, German and Spanish. Meine paddle. No, paddle mia, paddle mia.
Pero mio. You're both men.
That's true. Paddle mio. Yeah.
Or mi pero.
Mi paddle? Mi paddle? Yeah. Anyway, mi paddle has been a social conduit, and this is another thing related to traveling with pets. We go to the park every day by the river. We meet other people with dogs. And I had my first Spanish dinner party last Thursday on Thanksgiving, coincidentally,
Nice.
because of this little guy. My dog plays with her dog. She lived in the US for 14 years. And this dinner was exquisite. 20 people sit down. She's got an entire house here in Seville. Small house, but the first floor is kitchen, dining room. The second floor has 2 rooms, living room, bedroom. But she likes to entertain, so she made her first floor into a dining room with a table for 20. And boy, did we eat well. Her nephew carved the jamon, and it was one of the exquisite ones, aged for maybe 200 years or so. Really delicious, melt in your mouth. And she made, in my honor, a tapa with turkey.
Oh, well, that's very considerate.
It was one of the most delicious things I've ever tasted, and so much work. She's retired now, so she took the time. She took the center section of the turkey wing, deboned it, removed all the cartilage, put the meat back in, chopped up with ham and potato, then roasted it until it was crisp, topped it with a bechamel sauce, loaded with tarragon, a little bit of Worcestershire, and a touch of cayenne.
It was you were doing so well until the last item.
Your taste. We know you're to spice.
No, I love spices. I don't like hot
spices, right? You would have detected it. I barely detected it. If she hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known. Anyway, this was absolutely exquisite. There was also tortilla, and she put chorizo in her tortilla, which is unusual in this part of Spain, but it was actually delicious. She took 1 chorizo for the entire tortilla, and she took it out of the casing and did the potatoes with the chorizo. So the potatoes tasted slightly of paprika, but it wasn't a meaty tortilla.
Chorizo, spicy, as in hot.
No, this was not hot chorizo. The chorizo here is not like paprika. It has paprika, but no heat at all. None.
Oh, okay. So
what you're getting is paprika. So it's like a German paprika flavored potato chip. But then the 2 main courses, one was a Sevillian tomato and white bean stew, which was one of the most delicious things I've ever had in my life. And I had my first taste of the local beef. I don't buy beef for myself. I buy it for the dog. I'm not a huge meat eater. I eat chicken, which I know you don't like, but I love chicken.
You know what? As it's the only meat I usually eat, I don't particularly like it, but I eat it all the time. It's a bit silly.
Well,
I'm resigned to eating
he eats beef, he eats pork, he eats lamb. I eat chicken. But here I can get great fish at very low prices. So I picked up a kilo of codfish fillets, a kilo of codfish fillets. Make a guess. What did that cost me?
A kilo of codfish fillets would have been 45 to 50 euros.
€2.99.
I beg your pardon?
Two
€2 99 for a kilo?
a kilo. I went
Wow.
to the street fish market at the end of the day, and everything was, we have to get rid of it. So most of them are in my freezer. So I got a kilo of codfish fillets, all of the remaining codfish, for €2.99. Then I came home and individually wrapped them and froze them in a big Ziploc bag. So I have massive amounts of codfish, which is, I love fish. Fish is my thing.
Yeah. We eat fish all the time. Yeah, of course. I had fish last night. Actually, day after Thanksgiving, Adam made a fish pie again. Yeah.
Oh.
Adam usually cooks. It should be me, but so he says, "You never cook." I said, "You're right." Next day, I said, "Do you want me to cook?" And he says, "No, it relaxes me." So
Okay. Well,
I'm in a
good.
lose-lose situation.
Yeah, lose weight, lose Adam.
No, that I've done. And
I know.
as you know, I went from 57 to 97, and in 31 years of marriage, never noticed. Obviously, I'm back down again, but we're still married when I was 97.
Yeah,
Which
no, I
was,
don't think Adam judges you that way. From what I can see, you're you, he's him. It works.
that's exactly it. It's from the first time he said I love you, he felt okay. It was said. I mean, he says it every day, but I mean, it was a set thing. It wasn't going to change. It's
Yeah.
like when you take your first breath, you're going to breathe or your heart's going to beat every day. So it's as far as he's concerned, him and me is a done deal,
Yeah.
and it's not to be questioned.
Now, let's
Which
talk
is
about another sort of topic that is concerned to many people who are listening. And this is healthcare in the different cities that we have been a part of.
well, I have to say that when I lived in England, which I left in 2010. So when I left in England, and whether it be in London or in Suffolk, I have to say that the NHS was very, very good. Okay. And this is the NHS that I remember. The one that works well, that is efficient. Um, it really was an amazing institution. And I say was because, oh, we seem to have lost the visual.
I disappeared for a second there, and I'm back. I
Yep,
hope
yep.
you continue to talk because it continued to record.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
So,
yes. So,
yes.
I think in the last few years, probably due to COVID, I think the NHS is now overwhelmed. And even though the doctors and the nurses and everything are doing everything they can and going above and beyond, um, I'll give you, for instance, something that in the UK has been noted, and that is everybody was clapping the nurses and the doctors during COVID who put their life on the line, every day for patients who didn't want to have vaccines. Not those who couldn't, but those who didn't want to, and we'll skip over them rapidly before I start swearing on the radio. So they were still there for them, okay? And a lot of doctors and nurses died from COVID towards the beginning. And we clapped for them. And we did that joyfully every day. We clapped for them. And their raise was not very significant at all. So they died. But other than clapping, did we thank them? Not really. It's slightly demotivating, you know.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
It was overwhelmed. I have no problem with the unvaccinated as you do, because I say with everything, your body, your choice. You decide what goes in it. It was an experimental vaccine. You didn't want it, you didn't take it. I'm okay with that. Your body, your
yeah.
choice, and I support that, from abortion to anything and everything. The government
I
can never
agree.
control your body. And
No,
so
but abortions, I obviously.
and
No, I
most
don't
of the
agree.
patients, the statistics show that most of the patients in the hospital were vaccinated, because the vaccine didn't work the way it was supposed to. It was supposed to prevent COVID. It didn't do that.
But I had, as you know, COVID 3 times after the vaccine. One of those 3 times, I only noticed it because I tested positive, not because of anything.
And
But I
have
disagree with you,
vaccinated
darling.
friends that had it supposedly 3 times with the amplified PCR test. She never experienced anything. The only reason she ever knew is because they made her take it at work. So,
Okay. But I disagree with you, darling, because I have a niece who is on, she's on, what's it called? Repressant, immunosuppressants.
immunosuppressants, cortisone.
I don't know which immunosuppressants,
Okay.
but she has AS, so she's on immunosuppressants. And there are loads of people like her, for instance, cancer people and things like that. And if, as a parent, you choose not to vaccinate your child against childhood illnesses, if they get it, I couldn't care less. But if they spread it around to
Well, if
other,
the vaccine works, then they can't spread it around if your immunosuppressed child is vaccinated. They can
but
only spread it if the vaccine isn't working.
but there are some children who, for whatever reason, I mean, Heidi developed measles, for which, of course, my daughter developed measles, for which she was, of course, vaccinated the day after a double birthday party where there were about 30 kids and their parents. And I had to call the mother of the 2 birthday kids to tell her that my daughter just came down with measles. She was vaccinated. She didn't have a temperature. She was tested and tested positive, but she had nothing. She was just quarantined for I don't know how long. I don't remember how long. But then you have to go and tell all those kids that they just had a birthday party with the measles. And
Yeah.
at the time, there were a lot of parents who were not vaccinating their kids because of the autism. Measles vaccine gives autism, which of course was immediately debunked. But I don't know how many of those kids out there ended up getting the measles. You know?
I don't know how many kids ended up getting measles or if any ended up getting the measles, but if vaccines work, unvaccinated people are no danger to you. That's the bottom line. If the vaccine doesn't work, then no reason to get it. I got
Yeah.
mumps, measles, and meningitis all at the same time, and I had to be hospitalized. I was a little kid. My mother, I think we did not have a measles vaccine then, because I remember my mother wanting us all to go kiss the little girl who had measles and kiss the little girl who had chickenpox. We'd get it all at once and she could take care of us and we'd be done with it. So I don't think we had vaccines for those. I'm not sure, but that was what she made us do. But so I got the measles on purpose. And
Oh yeah, I
then,
had measles as a kid. You're right. We probably didn't have a vaccine back then because I got
and then
measles.
mumps and meningitis at the same time. It was not fun.
I had mumps, not the vaccine, mumps.
Yeah,
And
I had
of
mumps.
course, I had chicken pox. So I had a measles,
I think they
mumps.
had vaccines for those when we were kids.
I don't. Yeah, you're right. I don't think we had vaccines for those when we were kids.
But the science is
You didn't
showing
get
that those are
rubella.
not. I remember getting a polio vaccine.
Yeah, you remember that because it was on a sugar cube.
Yeah, I hate sugar. Um, and when I got a shingles vaccine when it became available because I had had the chicken pox.
Yeah, me too. Last year.
Oh, I got the shingles vaccine years ago. Um, and that's not it. Those are the ones I specifically remember. I'm sure there were others. Every vaccine I've ever had has made me sick for 3 days. I have a
Oh, you
big,
poor thing.
when I got the shingles vaccine, I was down for a week.
Oh,
I get a vaccine, I have to time it because I know I'm going to be in bed. And I got, what was it? Oh, a flu vaccine before I came here. And Milu, I had to ask a friend to take him to the dog run for the first couple of days. I could barely move. I was so ill.
you
Um,
poor thing.
yeah, but Milu still had his dog park walks, and he's a good guy. He would have slept with me on the bed the entire week if I'd made him, but he loves to go out. He loves to play.
Yes, Cozy always. Oh, look at that.
What?
The
Are you getting
sun's
sun?
come out.
Not
Yes,
here.
and the clouds seem to be disappearing. Wow, what's the
Wow.
temperature? What's the
Send that
temperature?
down here.
Uh, oh, 6 degrees.
I don't know what the temperature is here.
Ah, my
Probably
phone said 6 degrees.
16 in Seville, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, 6 degrees and sunny. So there.
Wow. Well, you got what I
Yeah,
don't have. I sent you the sunshine. So I have an
there we
artificial
go.
sunlight filter. All
Oh,
right, let's.
phone calls from France. I have no idea why.
All right.
Never mind.
This is something that is always an issue for me everywhere I go. And I'm paying far too much where I am right now. Housing. You found a great deal in Berlin. I found a good deal in Berlin, which has gone up due to the, problems with the pipeline. Our Nebenkosten has pretty much tripled. But finding affordable and suitable accommodations, it's a real challenge if you're not staying somewhere forever.
It is, but it of course is more in big cities than anywhere else.
Well, I'm in a
In London,
medium city, and it
yes, you are.
was, I almost ended up on the street with this pup because I had housing arranged ahead of time, and it was a basement apartment, but had windows, etc. And the rain came hard and fast. You probably remember this flooding, and one of the windows was not sealed. When I went on the 29th to move into the apartment, the floors had buckled, the walls were swollen with water, the electricity did not work, etc., etc. This beautiful little place was incredibly affordable, and suddenly I had nowhere to live. It was the 29th of November, and I needed a place by the 1st.
Ouch.
So I ended up checking every platform, meeting scammer after scammer after scammer, and finally, in desperation, took a place that was more than double what I had been budgeting. So I live very frugally right now. I'm looking for a place starting in January that will be a little bit cheaper, but it got us a place to move into, and they welcomed Milu.
Now, as you know, and as you probably will find for January, connections are very good.
Well, that's how I got the first place.
Exactly. And now that you've met 19 people at least at the Thanksgiving party,
Oh,
you
they
can
all
start.
know. Oh, they all know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They can
and
start asking around and everything. So connections, well, as you know, we got our flat through connections. And because we know the owners, every time one of the flats becomes available, we put in someone we know in here. But they're all studios. As you know, we live in a studio, so you
I
have
would
to be
move just for
prepared to.
space. So if the one becomes available, let me know. Um, just because they're inexpensive. That's really for me it.
Would you be able to downsize into a studio?
Yeah.
Well, if there's something that becomes available, I'll put you on the list. There's only one person in front of you, so
Is the kitchen decent?
small is a key word.
Well, my kitchen is small. But is there a 2 burner or a 4 burner stove?
Two,
Oh, I hate that. I'll still look. Maybe you'll
no
have me over
ovens.
for famous beef bourguignon and I can and see this apartment finally.
Oh, absolutely, darling. Whenever you come back, you can definitely come to ours.
Well, you've been saying that for 2 or 3 years, but
Yes, so connections are very good. Of course, there are sites, but as you know, sites also, sites as in Facebook pages, but a lot of scammers
scammers
on those.
galore. I
Scammers
saw a
on those,
place
yes.
that was shown to me by a very professional appearing real estate agent, and it looked good. The price was a little high, but it was, perfectly nice. Um, and I'm thinking, okay, I could do this. And I said, okay, uh, I'm gonna think about this one. I really like it. And then immediately when I left, do you want the apartment? If you want the apartment, you have to wire €1,000 now to this. And what I learned when I went back and started really researching is she was, yes, a professional real estate person, but these were holiday rentals. They were not long-term rentals. And she was showing me an apartment that was the calendar was already full for. She just wanted me to send her €1,000 to her private account. Um, so I've been in the apartment, seen the apartment, done the due diligence, and it was not a good scene. I finally tracked down the management company and I let them know this lady is a scam artist and that is what she's doing. And 3 days later, I get a nasty text from her saying, "You got me fired."
Oh,
I don't
so
care. She deserved to be fired. So I just blocked
absolutely.
her, you
What
know.
another thing they do is they rent an Airbnb place for a week
Hmm.
and then have tons of people come and visit and give €1,000 down for payment.
Right. Oh, my account isn't working. I can only take cash.
Yeah,
And then I
and things.
saw one place that was, um, I mean, it was such a dump, such a dump. I was desperate enough to consider it, but it was such a dump. And then I get a nasty text from the owner saying, "We don't take pets." And so it's like, all right, well, I really hate you anyway. So at least where we are, it costs too much, but we're 5 minutes from the river, which has a many kilometers long park on both sides. I can walk across the bridge to the biggest food market in Spain with all of the fresh local stuff. And if I go at the end of the day on Saturday, I can get a lot of really good deals, both for Milo and myself. And I would like to stay in this area if I can find a place in January. I'm started the search again because this area is incredible for shopping and for dogs, my two favorite things.
That sounds great. As you know, our area is terrific as well. And we're going to stay here until we can't anymore. But we're definitely going to stay here for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see why not. You're comfortable there. It's just the two of you.
Yeah.
There's no reason to run off to another place or right now to buy a place that could be bombed.
Well, it's just the three of us with Cozy, of course.
Well, yeah, but cozy. All right, I guess it's
Oh,
the
oh,
two of us.
don't say anything you're not going to be able to take back, young man.
It's the two of us. Okay, I get it. It's the two of us. Ah,
And then,
so
of course, we have our
he's
daughter who lives in the same building.
yeah, which is also very nice. And she's got a successful career with Eating Europe, which is nice.
Yeah. So, yes, we were talking about flats. Yes. So, actually, somehow, we've never had a problem, be it in London, Paris, Berlin. I'm thinking about the big cities I lived in, you know. Um, New York
Well, let
is
me,
difficult.
yeah.
Berlin is difficult in Europe. Berlin is very difficult, very difficult. But then again, it's such an amazing city that, you know,
Oh, I love it. I love Berlin.
me
I
too.
am looking forward to coming back when it's not winter. Um, my first experience was in Italy, and housing was provided for me everywhere I went. I was working as a chef and being passed from kitchen to kitchen. So I would get a train ticket to wherever I was headed, some lira, which I just kind of stuffed in an envelope because I didn't really have much of any expenses, and someone would meet me at the station. Oh, you stay with my cousin, you stay with my brother, you stay with my sister, you stay with, there was always a place for me to stay. And I never ever thought about housing in almost 3 years. In the Dominican Republic, housing was a perk of the job. It was on site. And when I moved off site, this is a kicker, I paid about 60 US dollars for an apartment on the beach, furnished, including utilities. So,
All that. Wow, you big spender, you.
yeah, I stayed for another year with the two cats, Bishop and Simba, who are now departed. And we just had a great time living on the beach. And Eugenia was back and forth between there and New York because her job was in New York. She loved the beach. She hated Dominica, but loved the beach. Uh, they don't speak good Spanish. She's from Argentina, and their Spanish, it's no good. They say the wrong words. They talk too slow. Yeah, this she hated. She was very snobby. Uh, they are not good Spanish people. Only Argentinians do things correctly. Mexicans are not correct. Spanish are not correct. Only Argentina. So
Interesting story
one,
about Spanish, which I may have told you before, is the theta. In Spain, they say azul for blue. And in South America and Mexico, they say azul. They don't bother with the theta. Where
right?
does the theta come from? The theta comes from the royal family that could speak very well and had a lisp.
Yes, like in Barcelona.
Exactly. So what they did is that every Spanish person started speaking with a lisp for the
Right.
theta. Uh,
And they
this
still
didn't.
often do.
They do. They do all the time in Spain. That's the way
Yeah.
it's said. But not in South America or in Mexico because they really couldn't care how the Spanish royal family spoke. That
And,
was hundreds of years ago.
and it still impacts the speech today.
And it's still a part of the speech today. It was adopted because of snobism.
Yep. I just for fun, I was in a piano bar where this guy was playing Broadway show tunes and singing them. And he was first singing a song in mixed Spanish and English from the Full Monty called Big Black Man. There ain't a nothing in the world like an hombre negro grande. And getting
Oh, I'm sorry I missed that.
he was getting a lot of laughs because he knew how to play the comedy of everything. And he took requests. So I asked him to sing The Sound of Music. Because our life with the sound of music. And he overplayed his lisp on every syllable. and got standing ovation for that one. And he had a very nice voice. It wasn't that he couldn't sing, but he knew how to turn any song into either tragedy or comedy. And he was really a good entertainer.
Oh, oh, well, that sounds
Oh,
great. Yeah, we lost you for a
yeah.
second there, but never mind. Going back to
It's got,
flats, one
yes.
of the things that happened here in Berlin, one of the things when you come into a new city is how to meet people and make new friends. Now, I'm not really the shy retiring type, so I don't really have that much of a problem. I say hello to everyone, and those who say hello back, well, bonus. But there are things, Facebook pages, like for women, there's Girls Gone International, which is in every country. You No, well, you're not a woman, are you?
Okay.
I'm very observant like that, you know. Things don't get past me very much. So there's Girls Gone International. There's, of course, here in Berlin, things like Berlin for Beginners. There's, of course, the same thing in all the other big cities. But you don't always want to meet up with, you know. So what I did, Adam said I had to make friends here in Berlin. He completely ignored the fact that I already had a dozen friends, but he said I had to make more friends. So what Penelope and I did is we went to our neighborhood app. It's called Nebenan, and it's things to sell, things that are clubs that are happening, events, and we created a new event. First Saturday of every month, we meet at the Hardenberg Cafe. And the first time we did that, which was about 2 years ago now, we just posted an ad, come and make new friends, Saturday, 11 a.m., first Saturday of every month. And Penelope and I went there and saw who would come. And it wasn't girls or boys, it was whatever, you know, whoever wanted. And we ended up being about a dozen couples, single men, single women, whatever. And every time we took everybody's name, added it on the Hardenberg list, and reminded them. And we came up to about 20, 25 people. And we are still very good friends 2 years later with, I don't know, between 6 and 8 of them. I haven't counted how many, but that's also a good way of making friends. They're
It's
lonely
Mhm.
and they just
It's a
want
great
to,
idea.
yeah.
I
So
find that for me, joining a gym is number one. I always meet people at the gym,
absolutely.
and having a dog now is number two because everybody wants to stop and talk to me when they see this little guy. So yes, we're talking about you. You get to go on camera now. You don't want to. Okay. Um,
An ear
he
showing.
what?
An ear is showing.
An ear is showing. There we go. There's an ear.
Yes.
Um, this is, we had a big hour and a half of exercise in the park. And so this is nap time. And his favorite place to nap is on my lap. But he was very, very dependent. I was telling you this in the pre-show when I got this guy. He was a rescue. I picked him up in Paris in June. And he was officially a foster of my friend Jasmine. And she very lovingly made sure that he came to me. Also, he wouldn't leave my side 3 days after we met, which, you know, had something to do with it. But he was so dependent. I could not leave the room. I couldn't even go to the bathroom. He had to watch me pee. I watch him pee, so it's fair. But now he's really secure in my presence, and he'll do a lot of things without me. He'll go chew on his bone. If I leave for 2 hours, he doesn't lay by the door looking. He goes to sleep. I set up a cell phone as a camera just to see how he behaved in this new place when I left. Jumped up on the couch and went to sleep immediately. So he's much more secure than he used to be. which I'm happy about, because at first he was really, what happened? My mommy died. Now you're my daddy and I love you, but you're going to go away.
Ooh, your microphone left again.
Did my microphone leave again?
Oh,
Is it back?
no, you
I think I just stopped talking.
no.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But, Cozy, as you know, is almost 6.5 now. And he needs an audience when he poops, not when he pees, but when he poops. If I go to the bathroom, he stands by the door and the door is open. He stands at the door and watches me. In the morning, he lets me know that it's just him and me because Adam went out to have coffee. He is not the most independent cat on the planet. And when we go away, he will stand behind the door and meow for a while. He's not very often left, but if we go to the movies or something. So he's not the world's most independent cat at all. At all.
Well, that's okay. Not every animal is going to be independent. I'm just glad that this guy is starting to have some independence. I mean, he loves the park and he'll run and run and run, but he always stops and waits for me to catch up.
Mm.
But he'll run and run and run and he'll get, several meters away from me, and then he'll stop and wait, then I catch up, off again. He's gaining some independence. It's not that I need him not to sit on my lap, of course. I love it, but it's nice that he feels secure.
I totally agree with you. That is very, very nice. I guess Cozy does feel secure. He just doesn't like to be alone, and he's afraid of the dark. I mean, we got a right one there, don't we?
Afraid of the dark. Okay. Cats see well in the dark, so that's kind of irrational on his part.
Yeah, but he's afraid of the dark. So when we leave lights on.
Why not? Why not? Speaking of pets, which guys, if you're new to this show and new to Natasha and I, we did a radio show for several years on in Berlin, and we are constantly going off topic. So expect us to go off and come back, go off and come back. So speaking of pets, I wanted to give a list of the most pet-friendly airlines. Now, if you have a big dog, he travels in cargo. There's no, they cannot travel in the plane, period, end of story. But if you have a small dog, there are airlines, or a cat, there are airlines that will allow you to put them in a carrier, and some will let you take them out of the carrier, depending on who the, stewardess is at the time. Many will require they stay in the carrier. But the most pet-friendly airlines are Lufthansa, if you're flying within Europe, Delta, Iberia, again, also Iberia flies from Europe to the US, primarily out of Madrid. Those are the top 3 pet-friendly airlines that have made accommodations for people. Alaska Airlines will allow you to buy a seat for your pet. They can sit next to you. Alaska Airlines will also allow you to buy 2 seats if you are flying with 2 pets and you need 2 underseat spaces. When I flew from, I think it was the Dominican Republic to California, I flew Dominican Republic to Vancouver to San Francisco with the 2 cats on Alaska Airlines. And they were really good about everything. They let me take the cats out and hold them on my lap a little bit when they were scared. Another airline that was really pet friendly was Air Berlin, but they are sadly gone.
Well, as you know, Eurowings is part of Lufthansa.
Yes.
And therefore, they are very good with pets. I traveled with Cozy from Paris to Berlin, and I had no problem. He was on my knees.
I had a problem with Eurowings when I flew to Egypt. One way, not on the way back. They, my luggage was one of those that is exactly the size, right? And this airline attendant was arguing with me that it went over, and she took her fingernail to prove that it went over by a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, according to her. But I'm looking at the outline and it didn't go over at all. In fact, it fell short of the outline. She demanded that I pay €50 or I couldn't board the plane. I got out my camera and started filming it. She waved at me and handed me my luggage and pushed me towards the door. The moment I started filming it, she didn't want to. It was a scam, obviously, because she was telling me our credit card system is not working. We only take cash.
Oh, really? Oh,
She
well,
wanted
that's
to,
great.
yeah, and that was Eurowings. And so I have not flown them since. I did post the video on social media and tagged the CEO and was immediately blocked by Eurowings customer service, Eurowings everything. They all blocked me because they didn't want to know what had gone on, which I also don't like.
Well, it is fair to point out that, as strange as it may seem, air personnel or plane personnel, be it on the ground or in planes, are humans too.
Yes.
And there are some excellent ones, unbelievably friendly, helpful, etc., so on and so forth, like all of the ones that I encountered on, gosh, what's the Greek airline? Now I have a blank.
Athenan?
No, the total Greek airline, which I can't remember because I'm a goose, which I will find immediately.
Okay.
Sorry about
Aegean?
that.
Aegean?
Aegean Airlines, yes, thank you, dear.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've had good
they
experiences with them.
they were, as far as I'm concerned, they were wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And I've had terrible experience as well. Uh, Unfortunately, because it used to be the airline I traveled with the most, Ryanair has some interesting personnel, and EasyJet, but it's just the odd one. There are a lot of fabulous ones as well.
Most of my experiences on EasyJet have been terrific.
Exactly.
So most of them I have no issues with, but Ryanair has been spotty. I've never had to pay an extra luggage fee, but I've had all kinds of strange things happen. Like someone I was in, I think it was Budapest, coming back to Berlin, and I was reading a book. Well, we waited for the flight, right? So I had a book under my arm. In order to check in, she made me put the book in my luggage because she was counting it as a second piece of luggage. Well, I put it in my luggage. I checked in. I went to the waiting area. I took it out and started reading it. Of course, I read it on the plane. It was just the most ludicrous thing to count a book as a piece of luggage. But sometimes they can be a little crazy.
Well, I think that it's drilled into them in some cases. For instance, as you know, my bags are always very small. They're usually the size of my phones, and they count them as an extra piece of luggage. So I put it in my pocket, and there it goes. There's no problem. But they are so drilled into them that they have to, it's only one piece of luggage, end of conversation.
Yeah, well, I wore extra clothes coming here. Also, airplanes are often cold, in order not to have luggage. I had one suitcase for this guy, his toys, his shoes, his, starter food, so he wouldn't have to cook for him right away. And I had one suitcase for me. I only brought 14 days worth of clothes. So 14 days worth of socks and underwear, and then I do laundry every 2 weeks. That's it. I went light. When I lived 6 months in Paris, oh, that was a great apartment. I had a big suitcase, and it was just such a pain. I didn't want a big suitcase and a dog. So I did one small suitcase for me, one small suitcase for him, and we're fine. The only thing I wish I had brought is a little more kitchen equipment because this apartment is not well equipped. But, what can you do? But speaking of apartments, when I moved to Paris, I got an Airbnb, and it was the worst place on earth. It was from a superhost. It had 5-star ratings. It was a filthy, filthy dump. And when I turned the heat on, which was electric, I immediately got a text message saying that the owner checked his app and he could see I was using electricity and please turn the heat off. It was $1,300 a month. They were paying, it was student housing that should never have been rented as an Airbnb with a Murphy bed. They were paying $150 a month for the space. The photos were misleading. Everything about it was misleading. Airbnb, I finally got action from them when I took a video and sent it directly to Brian. I got Brian Chesky's email because we had had a conversation during the lockdown about Airbnb experiences, and I sent it directly to him. Suddenly, customer service worked on my behalf. But I was telling some guests this in a restaurant because I was doing a tour at the time, and someone overheard me at another table. And she comes over, she goes, "Hello, my name is Nadine. I have it's called a mobility lease. It is for a studio in Montmartre. Would maybe that be helpful for you?" And I said, yes, because I was staying also in Clichy. I wasn't in Paris at all, even though the listing said Paris. They always lie. And I said, yes. And she goes, "Would you like to come and see it when you have finished with your guests?" And I said, yes. So I went, and it was a studio, but with a very nice kitchen, decently equipped, oven, which I love, and one of those beds that's a twin, but one pulls out to turn it into a double when you need it. It had a desk for working. It had a door directly to the outside. It was on the first floor, good sunlight, and electric metal shades that pulled down at night to block everything. I took it on the spot. She didn't even ask for a deposit. And I stayed there for 5 months and absolutely loved it. We became friends and we're still in touch. That's what a great apartment it was for me. And if I ever needed another apartment, she's got a few like this, I would just contact Nadine in Paris because she was the best. I consider her my savior. Just a conversation in a restaurant.
Well, I think you should find a way to share her contacts with anybody who needs a place in
Well,
Paris.
I've actually got somebody living where I used to live now. I have many times. But she only has 3 apartments. So it's not something that the public at large can take advantage of. But when someone contacts me privately, I've absolutely and an acquaintance of mine is in the apartment now. He loves it. You can walk everywhere. There's a 6-day-a-week street market 1 block away. I mean, was the best shopping in Paris.
Well,
And all
Montmartre is definitely one of the best areas in Paris.
it
Definitely.
was on the not on the tourist side of Montmartre, but on the other side. So it
Yes.
had the Arabic butcher shops, which were great for me because I live on oxtails.
Which, by the way, are delicious. So it was on the my mind is going, can we do something about it?
Yeah, let's get to a new one. So you know where Blanche Station is?
Yes,
You walk
I
up
know.
over the hill and it's on the other sside. Where the city or not, yeah, City Hall is on that side. So it was right by City Hall.
Rue Colincourt.
See, no, we,
Well, whatever, it's European.
right.
Yeah, we're not going to argue French, Spanish, whatever, Latin languages, which is actually, when I was in Greece a couple of weeks ago, we were discussing languages with my taxi driver. Great guy. Sophocles was his name. Beat that.
Mm, I love that.
Exactly. And the interesting thing that I was talking about is that I always recognize, I don't speak it, but I always recognize when somebody speaks Greek because of all the hard sounds they have, like K's and lots of A's and E's and stuff like that. But whereas we have Latin languages and Slavic languages and Germanic languages in terms of language groups around Europe, there is no quote unquote Greek languages. There's only Greek, but most of the languages, Latin, Germanic, or Slavic, use an awful lot of words from Greek.
Yeah.
Philosophy, psychology, psychopath, psychotic. I mean, uh, alpha, whatever, beta, whatever. All of these are Greek.
We have
And
cognates everywhere.
cognates is Latin.
Right. We have cognates. Cognates means words that mean the same or similarly in other languages. So, for instance, the English to French has many cognates. Spanish to English has many cognates. German has a few. I wouldn't
Well,
say English is Germanic at all, having
the
spent a year learning German.
it is. We have quite a few, and we have to have, because what a few years ago they decided to create a new language, kind of multi country, a unique language for Western civilization. They called it, what they call it again? El, it's not El Dorado, that's the Golden City, but whatever. But the actual melting pot of all Western languages is English. Because, of course, what happened was, there was England, and England, it's nice, it's green, it grows things very well, it doesn't have a harsh climate, it's not too cold, not too hot, it's very rainy. And so every few years, somebody would invade us, kill all the men, rape all the women, and start a new civilization. And they would do that, the northern people and so on. And then in 1066, we had William the Conqueror show up, and he brought French, and therefore all the Latin languages, and French was the language of the court for centuries. And so English is literally a melting pot of all the Western languages
And
that
then
we adopted.
it went to
Adapted
the United States and it
and went
changed
straight.
even further
Exactly.
because we had the Spanish-speaking neighbors to the south and the French-speaking neighbors to the north. And so more things developed and some things were lost.
Yeah.
I still love, I think the most is Elizabethan English. You know, I still say, I'll get a door and say, "My lady." And no one does that, but thing about that style of English that is so eloquent and it feels like you're communicating more from your heart and less from your mind.
Well, I was brought up in California, as you know, so I say sir, I say ma'am, and I'll say thank you, sir, please, ma'am. It's one of those things. It's I don't know, it's just a form of respect. And people in the UK, which is infinitely more uh, snobbish than the United States, they'd never use sir or ma'am unless it's a sir. And they don't use ma'am unless, well, they just don't use ma'am.
Mum, sometimes
Actually,
mum.
well, no, because the queen is ma'am, like ham and jam.
Well, I did have, I was with a friend of mine in London and they kept saying, "Yes, mum, yes, mum," not yes, ma'am, yes, mum to her.
Yes, but that it's still M-A-M.
Oh, really?
It's
I thought it
just,
was M-U-M, mum.
no, it's just their way of pronouncing it, but it's still M-A, actually
Okay.
M-A-A-M, two A's. But they would say, they would use the letter A with the same, because I grew up in the US, my A's tend to be more, I mean, like I say salt, and Adam says salt,
Yeah.
and I say tomatoes, and he says
He says
tomatoes,
tomato.
and my kids say tomatoes.
Herbs versus herbs. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I find that communication has never been a problem for me. So for people who are thinking about traveling and haven't, and they're so worried about the language, don't be. If you take time with somebody and they want to communicate with you, they will, and you will communicate with them. You can use your language while they're using their language. I had a great experience in the Czech Republic where I was on a train. This was several years ago, and there was this happy group of people in front of me. They had, you know, a big basket, and so they asked me something, and I had no idea what they were saying, but he indicated the basket, and come with me. So when the train stopped, I just thought, okay, I can get back on the train. It's allowed here to continue to where I'm going. I think I was going to Bratislava, Slovakia, and we got off, and I joined them for a picnic. And I found out that one of them was a dentist, yeah. He was showing me his work. I was showing them my work. They figured out, that I was working as a chef. We communicated all afternoon. We had a swim in the beautiful lake. We had a great picnic. I had with me bread and cheese, which was my train meal. So I contributed that, and I think some fruit. They had a lot of food as well. And we had a great picnic, a great day. They walked me back to, it was hugs all around. We did not understand a single word, but we communicated very well and had a wonderful afternoon as a result. So just don't be afraid. Most people are not horrible. If you're in a big city, yeah, there's going to be scam artists and there's going to be pickpockets. Use common sense. But if someone really wants to communicate with you, scam artists and pickpockets have learned enough English to cheat you. It's the people who don't know any that might surprise you. And I had a wonderful conversation today with very little Spanish in the park with another dog owner. His dog kept bringing the ball to me, not him. And I knew what he was telling me, even though I didn't understand what he was saying.
And another thing that is important to add is that whereas most people do understand some English, they will not understand if you speak to them like you would to a friend, which is very quickly and using big words. If you slow down, use smaller words, and give them time, they will, if they speak some English, understand you. You can't walk into a place and just assume everybody speaks perfect English like you do. Okay, I mean, this is a very good opportunity, for instance, to remind everybody that I'm French. English is my second language, actually, probably even my third language. So I know that not everybody speaks English, but if they do, speak slowly, use small words, use a lot of sign language, as in points. I got through in Germany by using the word this, as in this. Ich brauche this, und this, und this, und this, und this, und this, und this.
Die, das, die, yeah. So many derivations of that word in the German language when you actually start to learn it. I'm going to send you book 3 in the John Evans series. Book 2 is coming out very shortly. The cover's done. And have you looked at it? I had a first beta reader, someone I didn't know on Facebook, and she read through it and she kept pointing out words she did not understand. And so I had to change and simplify some of my language because I tend to use words that I know that may not be part of the common vernacular, vernacular being an example.
Exactly.
So every time she highlighted, I don't understand the word. Now, what I'd asked her for was, tell me if you figured out who did it. That's not what I got from her at all. So that's what you can do. She never just, I didn't understand this. And then at the end, she wrote, loved it.
For instance, when I first learned German.
Oh
Um,
man, das ist ein
ba-
hard language.
yeah, back in
Sehr hard.
1990, when I first learned language, the teacher um, made us read a text that was way above our ability to understand. And we were kind of like laughing our heads off. And he said, no, no, read it, read it. So we read through it. And at the end, he said, well, what is it about? And between all of us, we got the gist. And that's the point. You don't need to know everything. You just need to understand the gist.
Well, I'm hoping for an intensive Spanish class. There, with the rent I'm paying, forget about it. I can't afford it right now. But there's a class near where I am, and it's supposed to be the best school in Seville. And they had a sign out that they needed an English speaker to work there. 4 hours a day, month of January, only the month of January. They have counselors who speak different languages. Counselor means salesperson. And their English speaking person is going away for the month. And I don't have permission to work here other than what I'm already doing. So I can't take a job. But I went in and said, all right, I'll do it and I'll trade you for 8 weeks of immersive Spanish classes because they do total immersion. 4 hours a day, todo español. And the woman I talked to, their English speaking counselor, said, sí, perfecto. Yes, 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 yes. But of course, I have to run it by this person, and this person and get permission. But please come back in maybe the 10th or the 11th, and I will have an answer. This is perfect because they don't like to pay money. You can see from what they're paying me, it's not very good.
Gosh, I hope her bosses don't listen to this one.
Well, I don't think they're actually there. But I would love to get an intensive Spanish class. Am I getting by? Yeah. Can I read some? Yeah. But it would be nice to really, really understand the language better. And Duolingo, I don't want to criticize it, but it's not the best way to learn Spanish because everything is grouped off by topics. So you're not really learning how to express your thoughts. You're learning how to ask where the train is,
Yes, and everything about a train station.
Everything about a train station. It's like, what? You really want to teach me Spanish? Start with the bathroom. Baño, start with the bathrooms. Things that I don't think whoever programs these language programs understands travelers and what we really need. They understand how they want to teach us. And I think that's true across the line for most language programs. They tend to group things in ways that don't necessarily allow you to express your thoughts.
My first, okay, my first lesson that I gave my students when I was teaching English in Paris was history of English and history of the English language. Okay, so that they had a basis for the whole thing. My second lesson was all about myself. What is my name? How old am I? What do I do? How many brothers and sisters I have? Where do I come from? And that kind of stuff. Keeping in mind, of course, that all of my students were over 18 and were normally supposed to have had at least 7 to 8 years of English.
Okay.
And some of them had problems with my name is. So they probably
Mi nombre es Carlo.
Oh, very good, young man.
Gracias.
Yeah, y yo soy Natasha.
Mi piacere. No, that's Italian.
Yeah, lo siento. Pero puedo hablar español también. Sorry about that.
I throw Italian words and German words in periodically, but I'm really listening and I'm really paying attention. And that's what I would encourage all of you to do. You may or may not be able to take intensive language classes right away, but you can listen. you can pay attention. You can look at what it says on the cash register, listen to what the clerk is telling you, and then whether it's Zen Euro or 11 euro or whatever language it's in, you'll start to get a basis of it. People will greet you. You'll learn what those greetings are. Just listen, 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 listen. And then when you have a little bit, talk.
I
Say it
know.
wrong. Say it badly. It's okay.
Exactly, exactly. That's the difference between Adam and I. Adam is amazing in German. I mean, as you
Yeah.
know, he just passed his B1, no problems at all for his
I passed
German
mine. I don't know
citizenship.
how.
Exactly. Well, no, I know how. You were very good as well, but he just passed his B1. My gosh, I'm barely A2, okay? And that's, after some intensive catch up. But I speak all the time. I make mistakes. I use words that are not German. I just give them a German accent. I just speak all the time. I, of course, don't use any declension. Male or female, neutral, I don't care. I just use one, whichever comes first. I'm not really, but I just speak all the time. Whereas Adam doesn't like to make mistakes. So unless he's sure, he doesn't say anything. So
Yeah, and I've
people
heard
tend
it
to
in
say,
German, and
yeah,
he is good.
but people tend to say, oh, your German is so much better than Adam's. No, past two syllables, I don't know any words in German. Okay. And God knows German has a lot of words that are more than two syllables.
Some are paragraphs long.
Exactly. Whereas, Adam just wants to get it perfect. I don't care. Okay. And the word ding is used all the time. Diese Ding hier.
Ja,
Yeah.
das ist
Thing.
richtig.
Thing. Okay. So yeah, it's ding, by the way, not this, like I said before. But yeah, this I use as this, which is probably not translatable, but it doesn't matter. I just speak. I make mistakes. But I speak to everyone. I get in a cab. I said, hello, how was your day? I speak to them about whatever. I speak to cab drivers. I speak to everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do that at the park with this guy. We just talk and listen and listen and talk and listen and listen. And I have
Yeah.
to say, I've been here for a month and I'm getting a lot of what they're saying. I don't speak terribly well, but I'm understanding quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It just osmosis. It works by osmosis.
Now, one thing that is, as a big foodie, and I know this is a big concern to the UK listeners who are expats in various parts of Europe, many in Spain, as we both know. Are you changing position? They want the food of their home country. They want back bacon. They want, certain things that are not always readily available. And I know in some parts of Spain, if you go to Fuengirola, for instance, every grocery store has an enormous UK import section. It's not cheap, but it's enormous. It's an entire aisle of, canned baked beans, and there's a refrigerator section with certain things, and they've got the, the Marmite and all of these things that are very important to many of the older Brits who live there. In Sevilla, you don't see so much of that. And I do see a lot of British people here. But they tend to be younger here and they're less attached to certain food items. For me, as an American, the one thing I always need to find is peanut butter. And I don't mean peanut butter with sugar and palm oil, that's stuff they have in Germany. I mean real peanut butter made with peanuts and salt. And I've learned something terrific about many cities in Europe. Carrefour is a French market. And as you know, French and Africa had a lot of trading. Carrefour around the world always has good peanut butter.
So does Lidl. And that's all over Europe as well.
I never found one in the German Lidl that did not have sugar and palm oil. Did you find one there?
Well, first of all, I don't like peanut butter, and
Oh,
no, but of course, Little tends to go with what people buy,
yeah,
and
I've asked
we're in Germany.
and never gotten it. The one place I found it was in the DM store, which I believe is owned by Lidl. I'm not sure about that. They're owned by Lidl or one of the other chains. The DM store had a very tiny jar for €7 that was just peanuts and salt. So in Germany, I make my own or I bring it back from the US.
Yes, making your own is a good idea. It's not terribly difficult to make.
No, I have a restaurant quality food processor in Germany, not here. And I just puree the peanuts. Sometimes you have to add a little extra peanut oil, sometimes not, depending on the peanuts. Valencia are the best. And that's it. You got peanut butter. Just keep swishing until it turns into peanut butter. Add salt if you like. It's done.
And incidentally, it can also be done with hazelnuts, etc., so on and so forth.
Growing up on peanut butter, I've done it with other things. I'm not addicted to it. It doesn't have the same sort of certain foods for me, and I think for all of us, are emotional in nature, which is why
Yes.
we cling to them. For me, I didn't like jelly when I was a kid, but peanut butter on toast was my emotional connection to my mother, who is still kicking, not a kid anymore, but still kicking. I had a lovely conversation with her on Thanksgiving, and it was
No,
nice.
glad
She
to hear
actually
that.
sounds stronger than she did in August. Um, yeah, you're looking at the clock?
No, actually, I'm looking at a gentleman in the stairwell smoking a cigarette.
How
I'm
very nice.
guessing, yes, I'm guessing his girlfriend or something said, if you want to have a cigarette, you're going to have to go down in the stairwell. So he's got his head out the window smoking a cigarette.
Oh, I'm not a fan of nicotine addiction, so what can I tell you? People here smoke so much less than they do in Germany. People do smoke, but not like Germany. Germany, I think, even France does not smoke as much as Germany these days. Germans in Berlin tend to be smokers. There's many more than in any other city I have encountered in Europe.
As you know, I was a smoker for 20 years. I
I know.
haven't been a smoker for, well, since 91. Some people are going to start doing some calculation to find out when I started
Josh is
smoking.
over 35, and so am I. All right, go on.
So I don't usually notice people smoking. For me, the interesting thing is that I'm a smoker. I smoke in my dreams, and it's totally natural. So my soul, I'm a smoker. I haven't smoked since 91, anything of any kind. There has been no smoke entering my lungs deliberately since 91, but smoking for me is a normal thing.
For me, as an asthmatic, with cigarette smoke being my worst trigger, the second trigger I learned when I was in Hong Kong, which is incense, and they burn it in all the temples there. I was going into the temples and coming out just dying. So I had to get a super strong inhaler that I would use before I went in a temple just to keep me breathing while I looked around at these incredible places. But incense, the smoke from that is another big trigger for me.
Ouch. That is
Yeah.
an issue.
Whereas I smoke in my smoker, I smoke hams and chickens and turkeys. Yeah, you're seeing one ear again, all of that kind of thing. And I don't have any issues with the smoke from the smoker. But again, it's not direct smoke. It's just the scent of it on the wind, and very little gets into the apartment.
Oh, well, that's good. Oh. So you're back in March?
No, May.
May. Oh gosh.
I'm here
Really?
for
You've
6 months.
only been gone for a month or so?
I left October 22nd. So yeah, I've been gone the month of November. The first week I was with friends here from San Francisco, and I was essentially playing tourist and getting to know the city. And then I focused on creating the wine tour and learning the city. Now I can walk almost anywhere without looking at a map. I'm very pleased about that. And it's funny, one night I was coming home, actually, it was the party last week, and I had had maybe a little too much wine, maybe, maybe a little. So I was a little loopy, and I just said, Milo, can you take us home? And he started pulling the lead and sniffing the trees, and he found his way home, no problem.
Good boy. Best boy. Doesn't surprise me. Very
It
clever
doesn't
little.
surprise me either because he marks the trees. And so he just had to follow his nose. And by doing that, he knew exactly where to go. He marked all the trees going. So it's sort of like I realized that dogs use pee the way Hansel and Gretel used crumbs.
Yeah, but the birds ate all the crumbs.
Yeah, but the birds don't eat pee. So
That's true.
but
But they
he's
do
doing,
eat pea, the green peas.
yeah, but he's marking his path. So he knows how to get places.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love that, if you're feeling a little drunk, because when you drink, and you know this in any foreign city, you don't pull out your phone and start looking for directions if you're in streets that are not crowded, because people still steal cell phones and wallets. There are pickpockets everywhere in the world.
Hmm. Unfortunately, yes.
Spain doesn't have the problem that Paris does, but they still exist. And a drunk American holding his cell phone out in an abandoned looking street would be a target. So I just let the dog do it.
Well, then you do what I do. You have yourself a relatively cheap phone. And the one time that somebody stole my phone, and by the way, I never even noticed them stealing my phone. They walked about 20 meters, had a look at my phone, saw it was a really cheap phone, turned around and said, "Ma'am, I think you dropped your phone." And I thanked them and gave them 20 euros.
Okay, interesting. My phone is iPhone 10, so it's not a cheap phone, but it's an old one, and it doesn't have the appeal of the newer ones. The
Phone's not an iPhone
okay.
at all, not even close. So
Okay.
the one time he stole my phone, he gave it back, and I thanked him profusely and gave him 20 euros for giving me back my phone, even though he'd stolen it.
Well,
Just goes to show you.
yeah, you never know until you know.
Exactly. So I
I
never have expensive phones.
I have an expensive phone that does not belong to me, that belongs to the business, because when I'm in Paris, I have to take really high quality photos and video. And I've started doing some of that in Seville. As a matter of fact, today I think I'll do a Christmas video because this city is decorated to within an inch of its life.
Berlin is getting there.
I walk out the door, there's an enormous nativity scene. And Saturday night was a big party here, and they brought live animals. So there were lambs and donkeys and all of this, and they did a live living nativity, which was really beautiful. And Milo thought these animals were all just variations of dogs, and he kept trying to play with all of them. So I had to take him home at some point. He does the same thing with the street carriage horses. He tries to play. He thinks they're big doggies. And so he gets down in the play position. One of them will play with him.
Well, he is adorable, let's face it.
But most horses don't really want anything to do with him. But he tries. He
Hmm.
just thinks they're big dogs.
Yeah,
Um,
fair enough.
but so we have a nativity scene that is enormous. I'm near Piazza San Francisco. We have lights everywhere you turn now. Every street has, Feliz Navidad. It's everywhere. It's really nice to see, and it's even nicer to see when it's not cold.
Uh, Indeed. Um, the Kudam is all lit up, but not around here right now.
Frederick Shane never got decorated.
No,
They didn't bother with East Berlin.
don't they? Well,
No,
there's a couple of famous Christmas markets in the east. There's the
yeah, they do Christmas markets. There's the antique Christmas market in the Raw Market. There's That and another one in the raw market as well. But we don't get decorations. They don't do street lights. They don't do any of that.
And Alexanderplatz always has a
Oh, that's a big Christmas market. There's one thing in Alexanderplatz that they do so well: potato pancakes. There's
I love
one,
potato.
yeah, she's an older German woman, and she serves them with the you've just had it. It's the Greek sauce with the shaved cucumber and yogurt.
Tzatziki.
Tzatziki. She serves them with tzatziki, and she fries them until they are brown and crisp and gorgeous. They're just about the most perfect potato pancake I've ever had with tzatziki, and I will go just to have those. The rest of the market, I mean, the oversized sausages, the candy, the beer, doesn't do much for me. But those potato pancakes, they rock.
Well, can I say how delighted I am to see that there is something from the Christmas market that I can have, because as I can't have any sugar or alcohol, I will look forward to having those potato pancakes with tzatziki, which happen to be two things I really love.
Only Alexanderplatz have I seen those. So
Well,
when you walk in from the well, whether it's the I think the S3, 5, or 7, you come down the station. It's the second row of stuff, and it's near the middle. And you'll see she's always got a line, and she's always got happy people eating potato pancakes.
well, that
Um,
sounds like a great idea.
they're the best I've ever had, including my grandmother's. Sorry, Grandma. Yeah, they're just phenomenal. So we have 10 minutes left today. The time has flown by. What is the next thing we should tell our listeners? We're going to be covering topics of interest to expats for the foreseeable future. We're also going to put this on podcast, and we're going to put this additionally on YouTube. So if you miss the show live, you'll be able to catch it in other places. So what do you want to leave people with if they're maybe afraid to make the journey, but they really want to get out of whatever country they're in, and they have the means to do it, because you can't go to Europe without some money to get started?
Well, to be honest with you, I would start, if it were me, I would start by not necessarily aiming for the big capital cities. Okay. If you take my next door neighbor Nigel downstairs, he's looking for a house in the French countryside in the south.
Right.
Okay. A fixer upper. He's looking for about 120,000, and for that he can get a very nice place with a decent amount of grounds. When I say a very nice place, I'm talking maybe 3-4 bedrooms, and he
Good
can
bones, but it needs work.
exactly, and he can get that quite easily. So don't aim for big cities, but maybe something that's a few kilometers outside a big city. Be friendly, be open. A lot of places around Europe. Well, when I moved to England, first thing I did was meet all my neighbors. And
Right.
by the time I left, I was walking down the street in my pajamas to go get milk from Sally's fridge. I would just open the door, get in, open the fridge, take the milk, get out, whether or not they were there, because that's who I am. Don't do that, okay?
Don't do what?
That's me. To walk into somebody's house to take their milk, that was just me. Don't do that as a form of habit. But
Oh, I'm not going to do that. I don't wear pajamas either, so.
do meet your neighbors. It is something that we unbelievably important.
Right.
If there's a burglary, if there's a fire, if there's an accident, they will be the one there for you. Okay. If you know your neighbors and you have a break-in and you shout, by the way, if you have a break-in, shout fire. Don't shout help.
I know. Yeah, they won't come.
Shout fire, because that spreads. Um, your neighbors will be the first ones to help you. When my mother's house burned down, because it was on top of a hill, it could be seen for miles. And what happened, that the entire village showed up with blankets, with bags, with foods, and everybody that was staying at my house for that, my mother's house for that evening, had accommodation instantly. Okay. Uh, Stephen and Anton, who had just moved into their place a week earlier, brought over a picnic baskets with a whole bunch of things like champagne and caviar because they didn't know what to bring. It, everybody was grateful. Okay. So neighbors are the most important thing you will have. Okay.
I agree with that. I know all my neighbors in Berlin. I have subtenants now. They couldn't figure out how to use the washing machine or to change a light bulb. So I sent my neighbor Daniel a text and he went up and he helped them.
Exactly. Neighbors are unbelievably important. Um, okay, I'm very lucky. I have amazing neighbors here, but do I have amazing neighbors here because I put the effort into it or because they're amazing anyway? I think it's a
Both,
little of both.
both.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and you can do this. I mean, there are so many examples of uh, people coming into a village. You smile, you say hello. By the way, the French are very big on hello. If you don't walk into a store and say bonjour first,
Sure. Bonjour,
forget it.
madame.
They
Bonjour.
immediately say hello everywhere you go. But if you're friendly, people tend to be friendly in return. It's not rocket science,
Yeah,
you know.
that is
So
absolutely true. And they'll get to know your face. I Now that I've been in this apartment for a month and I know the markets and this little guy goes with me everywhere, they first all knew his name, you know. Hola Milo, hola Milo, hola Milo. That's what I heard walking down the street. Now, hola Carlo, hola Milo. Both of us are known. So all of the neighboring businesses know who we are. That's terrific. If something happened and I ran to, La Feverata, a restaurant near here, they would immediately be concerned and try to help. I know all the waiters. I know their names, you know.
yeah, exactly. That is exactly the way it works. When
And
you
I
go to your local store and they say, "Would you like a bag?" You say, "Oh no, I live right there,"
right.
so that they will get the
They'll
idea
know
that
that
you're,
where you live.
yeah,
Yeah. And one thing that I hear this complaint a lot on all of these Berlin for Beginners pages, usually from people younger than we are, is that they can't meet people. And I always ask them the same question. Do you ever leave your house? Well, I mean, do you ever say hello? Do you ever greet people? Do you ever take the initiative? Or do you expect everyone in Germany to plop down on your doorstep and say, let's be friends? And many of them won't take any initiative because they grew up with the phone in their hand and they don't know how to be human. So it's up to us who are past 35 to teach the younger generation how to be human because many of them don't know. They genuinely don't know. It's not that they're mean. It's not that they're stupid. They just don't have social skills.
yeah. But I find that just by saying hello and smiling opens so many doors. It's ludicrous, you know.
Well, we have reached the end of our show. As
For
always,
today.
time absolutely flew past. We'll be back next Monday at this time, recording again, and then it will air on Expat Radio, I believe 6 to 8 in London, 7 to 9 in Berlin. And then I'm going to put it on YouTube. And once we've got 3 recordings, I'll throw it up on a podcast as well. So, people, we have a page on Facebook. The radio show is
Exactly.
called
I was
Free
going to
Range,
bring that up.
Free Range on
So
Expert Radio. If there's things you want us to talk about or guests you want us to have, we are very interested. I'm trying to get Red Tape Translation to join us next week.
good, good, good. So please, if you have any questions, if there's any subject you want to discuss, us to discuss, or for that matter, discuss with us, our Facebook page, Free Range Expat Radio.
You will
And
find it.
incidentally, the page is also on Expat Radio itself.
Oh yeah, you can contact Expat Radio. Yeah. Let's see. Now, I need to manage the recording. So I'm going to say goodbye to you for today, Natasha. We'll be in touch as we always are.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. We are
Thank you
out.
very much. We are out.